Hello. In this brief lesson, we're going to cover the permissions inside of Drivve. We have both restrictive and additive permissions. So the first main place that we're going to want to apply permissions is here in the filing structure. So I have this hierarchy here, and this is where I'm able to restrict access based off a document's location in this hierarchy. By default, when I put documents in this hierarchy and when I build it out, all users have full access to all the documents in that group or in that section. But as soon as I use these functions down here to apply permissions, then it starts to restrict access to those documents. So a perfect example would be to use the accounting cabinet and only allow people who have access to the accounting group or who are in the accounting group to have access to those documents. So I've selected those three buttons for the accounting group here, and that means that these users can read the documents, they can download the documents, and they can edit the index fields. So as soon as I save it, then it's applied. If I go to one of these lower levels, you see that it's red, which means that that's an inherited permission from this section, which is where I included it in the first place. So I could also give access to one drawer to a certain user. So let's say Sally needs access to accounts receivable, even though she's not in the accounting group, then she would only have access to things in the accounts receivable drawer. So very simple. By default, no permissions are added to the documents or to the filing structure. As soon as I add one of these permissions, then it restricts use to everybody but those in that group or that user that I've selected. The second way that we can apply permissions is based off the space. So in a similar way, by default, all spaces are open to everybody. But if I want to start restricting that space to certain users or groups, you see when I select that space permissions field here, I can give access to only certain users. So let's say if only Bobby was supposed to have access to this space, then I can give Bobby access there. You can also do it based off of a group. So I can restrict access by the type of the document or the classification of the document via the filing structure. But I can also restrict access to the space, which is the context for the document. Remember also that if we're adding unique space fields and some of those fields are sensitive, like social security number or something, we want to restrict access to the space itself so that it doesn't even show up in a search.